On April 26, 2025, Nautilus released a Google Doc titled Terminating My Work with Cinder. This is how the Cinder situation started. My issue with this document is right here, where Nautilus states that English is not her native language, just like how her language is not my native language. I wouldn't understand certain nuances when communicating, whether it be verbal or through text, and it would be easy to misinterpret what's being said. I am not saying that's what happened. What I'm saying, it's quite possible mistakes were made. While going through this document on my streams, I noticed something very interesting, and that has been debated quite thoroughly by no one. It's assumed that Redacted was speaking with Cinder's voice. While I would agree some of the things that were said in this document are very unprofessional and can be seen as hurtful, but there's no proof in this document that Redacted had Cinder's approval. In Cinder's DMs to Nautilus, we can come to the conclusion that she was unaware of how Redacted was communicating with Nautilus. And it's in this section down here where she states, I understand what he means. That tells me that she was unaware of Redacted's DMs and how they are worded. Because Nautilus shows a message from Redacted. Then Cinder makes that statement of, I understand what he means. It's a clear indication that's the first time she's reading that message. To say that Cinder approved or was aware of how Redacted interacted with Nautilus is false. And the statement, it's just business, that's the way it should be. Redacted should never communicate other issues with other talent like Bao, like Shy Lily, like Silvervale, with anybody. He's not their manager. It's none of his business. Bringing up things about editors and models is not his business. To put it bluntly, the mistake that Cinder made was having Redacted as her manager and not setting clear guidelines. I use this Google Doc by Powder to establish a timeline of events. We have to understand Powder is a fan of Cinder, so there is a tinge of bias, but it is a helpful document. With this document, we can get some idea of a timeline. Plus, with the links in the document, we can get access to videos and other documentation, other Google Docs released by other people. This was very helpful to me to grow a better understanding of what truly happened between other talents and Cinder and Redacted. Next player I want to talk about is Shy Lily. Shy Lily and Cinder may not be classified as friends prior to this incident, but they were business partners within gaming subs. So they will collab, if not out of friendship, but out of business sense. In Shy Lily's discussion about this situation, she brought up some interesting facts. She admits that she ghosted Cinder. She admits not responding to her inquiries, which in turn could be seen as detriment to their relationship. By Shy Lily's own admission, she isn't very active on Discord. The main problem with this behavior is sends mixed signal to your business partner, whether you're serious or not about this relationship. Regardless if Cinder and Shy Lily was friends, the behavior between the two is very childish and immature and unprofessional. This is Bao's Google document. It repeats a lot of things from Nautilus and others' documents. But the main thing I want to talk about here are these statements. This is based on someone who's looking on the outside of a relationship. While Bao and Cinder may have been true friends and have a deep friendship, which explains hurtful feelings that Bao felt, Bao truly would have no idea how Cinder and Redacted's relationship worked because she's not a part of it. She just saw it from the outside. In this section, Bao says herself, this is what Redacted lists as reasons why Nautilus should cancel her ongoing Live 2D commission with me, all the while continuing to collaborate with me and pretending to be my friend. Understand what is stated there. Redacted listed, not Redacted and Cinder. Once again, Bao is on the outside looking in. She has no true understanding of Redacted and Cinder's relationship, whether it be the personal relationship or their professional relationship. Remember, Redacted and Cinder live in two different states. It would be hard to say that Cinder was fully aware that Redacted was talking about Bao this way. They don't live in the same house. How would Cinder know what Redacted was saying in his DM? As I scroll through this document, I want you to pay attention to the names. You'll notice someone's name is not in this document in the DMs as examples of who is talking about who. You won't see Cinder's name. All you see is Redacted and the editor, and Bao and Nautilus. You do not see Cinder's name. Now understand, during this time, by the admission of Shy Lily and Bao herself, she went through surgery. As someone that's gone through and is going through intensive medical procedures, I know it takes time to recover from those procedures, physically and mentally. In her video, Bao's honest feelings about the Cinder situation, you can tell she's in pain, not just emotionally, but physically also. That kind of tells me she was not fully prepared to deal with this situation. Bao was not given enough time to recoup from her surgery. By Shy Lily's own admission, they quote unquote slept on it. Now I can understand being angry with some of the things that Redacted said in the DMs. The problem with not taking the necessary time to calm down and not being as emotional is that you make mistakes. Shy Lily contacted Bao and learned that Bao was going through surgery, but gave her a day or two to recover, and then addressing the Cinder situation, which should actually be called the Redacted situation. Other talent to mention is Silvervale. As a fan of Silvervale myself, I understand her personality. Silvervale has trust issues. That's the reason why she doesn't do a lot of collabs. She doesn't do collabs with people she doesn't know because she got hurt in the past when she did that. So when Cinder and Redacted approached her about doing a collab with Cinder, Silvervale politely turned them down. In Silvervale's document, it's finally shown whose name was censored. It was Silvervale's. And the interaction between Redacted and Natalis made it clear that Redacted and Cinder didn't want Natalis doing models for Silvervale. This is all based on interactions that Silvervale and Cinder had, and the hurt feelings that Cinder mistook as a personal vendetta that Silvervale had against her. This was a mistake by Redacted and Cinder. It should never have gotten this far. It should have been treated as an opportunity that can happen further down the road, but not right now. While it is a missed opportunity, it's not a lost opportunity. All that needed to happen was for Cinder and Redacted to back off and earn Silvervale's trust. How to do that? By collabing with people that Silvervale trusts and building a rapport with Silvervale. Sadly, that's not what happened. Redacted and Cinder took it personally and in turn had a vendetta against Silvervale. This is the only person that can say that Redacted and Cinder targeted her to deny access of artwork done by Natalis. It was blatant, it was obvious. All the other parties, Bao, to a certain extent, was going to be denied Natalis's talents if she went exclusive with Cinder. The malice presented by Redacted in those two situations is different. I would say if anybody is truly a victim in this whole situation is Silvervale. But let's be honest. Silvervale's career was not in jeopardy. Natalis made it very clear she wasn't going to be a exclusive artist for Cinder. In Powder's Google document, we have links to other people's documents where some personal information which should not have been released to the public because it's none of the public's business. Also, some other people who were affected by the Google document made by an analyst. Van Peaches claims Cinder's manager is also her boyfriend, which was later confirmed by Cinder. This information shouldn't have been leaked to the public because it's not the public's business, nor does it have anything to do with the current situation. Regardless if Redacted is Cinder's boyfriend or not, it does not impact those DMs because at that particular time, Redacted was acting as the manager of Cinder. Ray releases a document. This document is about a supposed affair, but this document is nothing more than a clout chasing document for Ray to get more subs and more viewers because it has nothing to do with the current situation. And it's a deplorable act to release something for no other reason to show the vulnerability of someone that is already going through a lot. Spite's document implies that Cinder stole models from Spite, or that implies that Cinder thinks Spite stole models from her and was copying her. I believe this is just a bunch of coincidences that happened. Granted, there are a lot of them, but there's no proof that anybody was spying on anybody else. Just a lot of coincidences that happened and two people who didn't talk to each other. On April 26th, Cinder released a statement on Twitter stating that she basically has fired Redacted as her manager. This, unfortunately, was something that should have happened a long time ago. Because they were in a personal relationship, it made this situation a whole lot worse. The day after Cinder released Redacted as her manager, she released a Google Doc apologizing for what happened. She states she was unaware of Redacted's actions. The only person that can deny or disclaim Cinder's statements is Redacted, which he hasn't done. She in turn explains the situation, how she thought Redacted was only talking about Silvervale, how she tried to guilt trip the analyst because of Silvervale, and her other behavior, how she felt she was out of line, makes an apology to each person involved. So she takes accountability for her actions and Redacted's actions also that were done in her name. What did we learn? Well, we learned that majority of the problems that happened in this situation was due to a lack of communication on all parties. If Shy Lily, Bao, Nanolis, Cinder all had problems with each other, but refused to actually sit down and talk about it. There's been underlying issues festering for a long time. We learned that Redacted acted unprofessionally because his main job, the number one job of a talent manager, is to keep his client out of drama, which he failed miserably at. We also learned there was a vendetta against Silvervale, which Sinder has taken accountability for. There is a lot of fault to go around. Shy Lily should have explained her feelings to Cinder long before this happened. Cinder should have gone to Bao expressing her discontent over the editor. Redacted should just stick to his client and not worry about what other talent does. As for the other players, spite, we can chalk it up to coincidences. Peaches and Rain, it's kinda sad to release personal information just to get your name out there so you may get a few more subs. That's not how to grow and be considered reputable. The only real winners in this situation is people who are talking about it and not really involved. Sadly, most people look at this situation and just go with emotion and not look for facts. The fact is, and it should have been made very clear throughout this video and my streams, Cinder had no idea what Redacted was saying in his DMs. The only one that she was aware that Redacted was going to talk about was Silvervale. She didn't know about Bao or Shy Lily. And we know this by Cinder's own words. To assume things is a foolish errand on people with short-sighted perceptions. To think you know someone's relationship and how they act within that relationship is foolish, because you truly will never know if it's healthy or not. Cinder also suffers from high anxiety, which she sought therapy for, and she has issues talking about her feelings. This also compounded the situation where she may not be comfortable talking to other people about her grievances with their behavior or misunderstands their behavior. Like in the Silvervale situation, I believe this situation was blown up way out of proportion, other than the Silvervale stuff. All this smacks of what I call high school drama, which is basically friends fighting with friends. And if they took the time to sit down, which by the omission of Nanolis, Shy Lily, and Bao did not do, what should have been the first step is to sit down and talk to Cinder to discuss Redacted's behavior and what he said in those DMs, to give their friend a chance to explain herself before you release a document to the public and truly, possibly, ruin her career. Because, let's be honest, Nanolis refused to be an exclusive artist. So, What's the problem? The editor refused to be an exclusive editor for Cinder. Once again, what's the problem? The problem is Redacted shouldn't have brought it up. If you want to be upset with anybody in this situation, and I'm talking to Bao and Shy Lily and Natalis, be upset with Redacted. Because he said it, and there's no proof, no factual evidence that Cinder was aware that he was talking about you. You jumped to conclusions, just like most people who cover drama and don't take the necessary time to take a hard look of what is being said and not looking for hidden meanings. Because you can't do that. All you can do is go based on what is said and only what is said, and not look for other things. You don't twist it. You don't say this is what she actually meant or this is what he actually meant. You just go based on what is actually said, because those are the facts. My investigation concludes simple things: that this has been blown out of proportion, that Redacted is at fault for creating this situation by talking about other talents. The only thing that Cinder is guilty of is having a personal vendetta against Silvervale. I see no evidence that she had any hardship feelings towards Bao and Shy Lily. I don't believe she did, regardless to what Redacted said. Because when Redacted started bringing up other people, he stopped being a manager and became the boyfriend. That's why I said Redacted needed to stop being Cinder's manager. And I do think Cinder can come back, and that yes, it will be difficult. It will be hard for her because she will be getting a lot of hate. But she also has a lot of support from her fans. You see it every day on Twitter. Her fans wishing her the best. Cinder has no control over her fans, Redacted, or anybody else on what they do. She's not God. And to finally understand, you cannot control what other people do in their interactions with your friends, your contractor, your artists, editors, when you're not living in the same house or the same state, brings a new perspective to this situation. I hope Cinder finds peace, and I do hope she comes back. As someone who's never watched her content other than for research purposes, I think she's being treated unfairly. I see this as a knee-jerk reaction based on emotion, where people should have taken the time to talk to each other. This concludes my investigation into the Cinder situation. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe, leave a like, and a comment. And if you're going to say Cinder did something, please show me facts, not opinions. Actual evidence of what Cinder did wrong beyond the Silvervale situation.